Mr. Wood is here, Mr. Kaufman is here on his behalf, as is Mr. Germano. For the people, we have Mr. Fitzpatrick and Ms. McGonigal. My understanding is there's going to be a disposition this morning. Before I get to that, Mr. Fitzpatrick, anything you'd like to put on the record, sir?
Your Honor, a few moments ago in chambers, I filed with the court, gave a copy to defense counsel of a waiver of primary jurisdiction. On behalf of the people of the state of New York, I, as the district attorney, am hereby ceding and relinquishing primary jurisdiction to the United States government.
In effect, what you're saying is if Mr. Wood was to plead guilty this morning and be sentenced down the road, whatever sentence he receives here could be made to run at the end of any federal sentence he may receive.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything about that, Mr. Cobb?
Well, Judge, I think it would be appropriate for us to take care of the plea first before we address that.
Okay. All right. And my understanding is from discussion with all the attorneys, Mr. Wood is willing to plead guilty to the 10 counts that have he's been indicted on. That's counts 1 through 10, and I'd just like to go through that. It's been told to me that Mr. Wood has expressed a willingness to accept the imposition of the maximum sentence authorized under law upon conviction of each of those charged crimes, those 10 crimes. There exists, to my reading of the law, no statutory or constitutional impediment to this court accepting the guilty plea, provided that they are knowing, voluntary, and intelligent. And pursuant to the documentation that's been filed with the court, the United States government will not be legally foreclosed from prosecuting Mr. Wood for violations of any federal criminal law, even upon a plea here. So I want to make sure that everyone is on the same page with that. With regards to count number 1, I want it clear with Mr. Wood what the penalties will be should he plead guilty. Count number 1, murder in the first degree, be a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Count number 2, murder in the first degree, it would be a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Count number 3, which is murder in the second degree, it'd be a sentence of 25 years to life indeterminate. Count number 4, murder in the second degree, with a plea of guilty, it'd be a sentence of 25 years to life indeterminate. Count number 5, which was attempted murder in the second degree, it would be a 25-year determinate sentence plus 5 years post-release supervision as a second felony offender. Count 6, murder in the second degree, would be a sentence of 25 years to life indeterminate. Count 7, murder in the second degree, with a plea to that charge, would be a sentence of 25 years to life indeterminate. Count 8, robbery in the first degree, it'd be a sentence of 25 years determinate plus 5 years post-release as a second felony offender. Count 9, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, it would be a 15-year determinate sentence plus 5 years post-release, again as a second felony offender. And finally, count 10, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, a 15-year determinate sentence plus 5 years post-release supervision as a second felony offender. Those sentences would run concurrent to each other, and there would be a waiver of appeal. Is that your understanding, Mr. Fitzpatrick, of what's going to happen this morning?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Cobb?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and I'm going to inquire of Mr. Wood. Is there anything else you want to put on the record before I do that?
No, Judge.
Mr. Wood, how old are you, sir?
33 years.
33 years old. You've heard what I put on the record, and this is how you want to resolve your case this morning. Is that correct?
Correct.
How far have you gone to school, Mr. Wood?
9th grade?
Okay, GED or no?
No, sir.
Do you read, write, and understand English?
Absolutely.
Do you understand everything that's happening here this morning?
Yes, sir.
Have you taken any medication that would affect your ability to understand what's happening here today?
Absolutely not.
You understand, sir, that by pleading guilty to these 10 counts, you are giving up all the rights that go along with the trial of this matter.
Yes, sir.
That includes the right to have the DA prove your guilt at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Correct.
By pleading guilty, Mr. Wood, you give up the right to have your attorney cross-examine the DA's witnesses. Do you understand?
Yes.
You also give up the right to testify at any trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And by pleading guilty, you give up the right to have your attorneys call witnesses on your behalf. Do you understand those things you're giving up?
Yes.
And do you understand, sir, that a plea of guilty is the same as a conviction after trial?
Yes.
It's the same as if 12 jurors came back and told me unanimously that you were guilty of these 10 crimes. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood, are you doing all of this of your own free will, sir?
Yes, absolutely.
you've had time to speak to your attorneys and come to this decision, is that correct?
Yes.
And besides the sentence, the proposed sentence that I put on the record this morning, has anyone promised you anything or threatened you in any way to get you to plead guilty here today?
Absolutely not.
Do you have any questions about any of this, Mr. Wood?
No.
I find Mr. Wood can make a knowing, voluntary, and intelligent plea to the charge. The other thing you give up, Mr. Wood, as part of this agreement with the court is the right to appeal any mistakes that may have been made in coming to this disposition. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And you want to give up that right to appeal in return for the court's promise of sentence. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any questions about that, sir?
No.
I find Mr. Wood has made a voluntary waiver of his right to appeal. Mr. Wood, I'm going to go through counts 1 through 10, one by one, and you have the indictment there, Mr. Kaufman.
Yes, I do, Judge.
The first count is murder in the first degree. Are you willing to admit to me, sir, that on or about September 15th of last year, 2018, the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, being more than 18 years old at the time of the commission of the crime, specifically being 32 years old, that you intentionally caused the death of Stephen Goodneck by shooting him in the head, and Mr. Goodneck was killed while you were in the course of committing or attempting to commit an in furtherance of a robbery, or in the course of and in furtherance of immediate flight after committing or attempting to commit robbery, of which Mr. Goodneck was not a participant. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
How do you plead to murder in the first degree?
Guilty.
Let's go to the second count, which is also a charge of murder in the first degree. I apologize. You willing to admit to me, Mr. Wood, that on or about September 15, 2018, in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, again being more than 18 years old at the time of the commission of the crime, specifically 32 years old, intentionally caused the death of Christopher Hicks by shooting him in the head, and Mr. Hicks was killed while you were in the course of committing or attempting to commit an in furtherance of robbery, or in the course of and furtherance of immediate flight after committing or attempting to commit robbery, of which Mr. Hicks was not a participant. Is that true, sir?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
How do you plead to that count of murder in the first degree?
Guilty.
The third count, Mr. Wood, is murder in the second degree. Are you willing to admit to me, sir, that on or about September 15, 2018, the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you intentionally caused the death of Stephen Goodneck by shooting him in the head? Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
How do you plead to that count of murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
The fourth count is another count of murder in the second degree. Are you willing to admit to me, Mr. Wood, that on or about September 15, 2018, in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you intentionally caused the death of Christopher Hicks by shooting him in the head?
Yes.
How do you plead to that count, the fourth count, murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
Let me turn to count number 5, which is attempted murder in the second degree. Are you willing to admit to me, Mr. Wood, that again, on the 15th day of September 2018, in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you attempted to intentionally cause the death of Jessica Song by attempting to shoot her with a loaded handgun?
Yes.
How do you plead to that charge, sir?
Guilty.
The sixth count of the indictment is a charge of murder in the second degree. Mr. Wood, are you willing to admit to me that on September 15, 2018, again in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, acting in concert with Tracy Brown and Ronald Green, committed or attempted to commit robbery, and in the course of and furtherance of such crime or immediate flight therefrom, you caused the death of Stephen Goodneck, who was not a participant in the crime, by shooting him in the head? Is that correct, sir?
Right.
How do you plead to that count of murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
I'm going to turn to the seventh count of the indictment, which is another count of murder in the second degree. Are you willing to admit to me, sir, again on September 15, 2018, in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, acting in concert with Tracy Brown and Ronald Green, committed or attempted to commit robbery, in the course of and furtherance of that crime or immediate flight therefrom, you caused the death of Christopher Hicks, who was not a participant in the crime, by shooting Mr. Hicks in the head? Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
How do you plead to that count of murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
I'm going to turn to the eighth count of the indictment, which is robbery in the first degree. Are you willing to admit to me, sir, that on September 15, 2018, in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, again acting in concert with Tracy Brown and Ronald Green, forcibly stole U.S. currency from Chili's Grill and Bar, located at 3691 Erie Boulevard East. In the course of the commission of that crime, or immediate flight therefrom, you were armed with a deadly weapon, that is, a loaded, high-point, 9mm Luger semi-automatic pistol. Is that correct, Mr. Wood?
Correct.
How do you plead to that charge?
Guilty.
The 9th count, sir, is criminal possession of a weapon in the 2nd degree. Are you willing to admit to me, Mr. Wood, that on September 15, 2018, in the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, acting in concert with Tracy Brown and Ronald Green, possessed a loaded firearm, intending to use that unlawfully against the employees of Chili's Grill and Bar, that is, a loaded high-point 9mm Luger semi-automatic pistol. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
How do you plead to that charge?
Guilty.
I'll accept the plea there. The 10th count, the final count involving Mr. Wood, is another count of criminal possession of a weapon in the 2nd degree. Mr. Wood, are you willing to admit to me that on or about September 15, 2018, at the town of DeWitt, Onondaga County, that you, acting in concert again with Tracy Brown and Ronald Green, possessed a loaded firearm at a place other than their home and your home or place of business, that is, a loaded high-point 9mm Luger semi-automatic pistol. Is that correct, sir?
Guilty, yes.
You plead guilty to that, sir?
Yes.
I'm going to accept Mr. Wood's plea through counts 1 through 10. Mr. Fitzpatrick, would you like to inquire, sir?
If I may, Your Honor. Mr. Wood, you just pled guilty to possessing a loaded high-point 9mm Luger during the commission of these crimes. How did you come into possession of that pistol?
Tracy Brown. I got it from my friend.
I'm sorry, I have to speak
I
up.
got it from my friend Tracy Brown.
You got it from Tracy Brown? Was she aware that you were going to use that in the course of a robbery?
Yeah.
And was she expecting to receive some of the proceeds from the robbery as payment for the gun?
Yes.
Your answer is yes? Do you know an individual by the name of Jerome Pinkert?
Do I know him?
You know an individual by the name of Ryan Brown, Tracy Brown's son?
Yes.
Had you previously discussed with Ryan Brown the possibility of obtaining a weapon from him for the purposes of committing this robbery?
Repeat that again?
Did you previously discuss with Ryan Brown the possibility of obtaining a gun from him for you to use in the course of this robbery?
No.
Did you ever have a discussion with Ryan Brown about a weapon?
No.
Do you know who he is, though?
Yeah.
All right. You know an individual by the name of Ronald Green?
I don't know him except for the night. That night of the crime, I haven't known him before.
You knew him that night.
That night, correct?
He was your getaway driver that night?
Yes.
He knew full well what you intended to do.
Yeah.
And he had his child in the car when he drove you away from the scene of the crime?
Yep.
And just a few more questions, Mr. Wood. Did you wear a mask during the commission of this robbery?
Yep.
And did you become aware that the 4 victims or the 4 intended victims knew who you were?
Yes.
Satisfied, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the second felony offender.
Yes, I provided a copy of Mr. Thompson for the defendant to sign.
And if I may just have a
Of
moment
course,
to go
take
over
your
that
time
with
you need.
Mr. Wood, Judge.
The deputies, Mr. Wood, will be held without bail until the time of sentence. Mr. Wood, I have a document entitled "A Predicate Felony Conviction Statement." It indicates to me, sir, that you were previously convicted of the felony of criminal sexual act in the 3rd degree in Onondaga County Court on December 2nd, 2011. Is that correct, sir? You are the same William Wood that was convicted of that felony, is that correct? And is it also correct for me to say that you are not going to challenge the constitutionality of that conviction? That's correct? I'll accept Mr. Wood's admission to the prior predicate felony conviction statement. What happens now is I'm going to ask probation to do a pre-sentence investigation. They're going to interview you, Mr. Wood, cooperate with them while they do their interview. Obviously, stay out of trouble between now and the time of sentencing. Everyone, as far as counsel is concerned, I'm looking at the week of April 15th. I know that normally we can do this in about 3 weeks, but there are multiple victims and victims' families that probation needs to reach out to. And I'd like to give them a little extra time to get that done. And I know that Ms. McGonigal is going to let me know if any of the victims or their families would like to speak at sentencing, correct?
Yes, Judge, I'll send you a letter.
All right, thank you. The week of April 15th, whatever's convenient for both sides.
I'll be available any day that week, Your Honor.
Same, Judge.
Want to put on for the 15th?
That's fine with me.
All right. Mr. Fitzpatrick, Ms. McGonigal, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Coffin, Mr. Germano, anything else?
Judge, with respect to the people's purported waiver of primary
Yes, we
jurisdiction,
wanted to be heard on
for the
that.
record, we would object to that. If I might just have a
Of course.
It's our position, Judge, that the state has primary jurisdiction, that he should be held in state custody. The state definitely has overriding interest here.
Well, what's going to happen, as far as our case is concerned, is we'll certainly be sentencing Mr. Wood prior to any federal disposition. And I know that Ms. Bianco represents Mr. Wood in federal court, and we'll take this up with them. All right? Anything else?
I have nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.